Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books. It's a woke war win for David Zaslav and the management team at Warner Brothers Discovery. Earlier this week, they decided to shut down and close off Warner Brothers Discovery's pipeline program that they inherited when they merged with Warner Media. It had been in business for, the department was around for 40 years, and the whole purpose of the directors' workshop and writers' workshop were to bring new people into the business, bring new people into the industry, give them opportunity, and give a little bit of money back to the community. Now, of course, in the past few years, like almost all recruiting departments, they were taken over by the diversity, equity, and inclusion people, and they really just took their focus and they put it on diversity, equity, inclusion related hires only, underrepresented communities. Fine, but that's not what the intentional creation of the program was about, and it also got out of control. That's not what this was supposed to be for. This was a division of Warner Brothers Television. Warner Brothers Television was paying for all this in their budget. So the Zaslav team takes over. They identify this program. They also identified something else called Stage 13. And Stage 13 this is interesting. Okay, Stage 13, which they fully funded through Warner Brothers Television, that division. They describe themselves as a production company dedicated to amplifying intersectional stories and championing creators from underserved and underrepresented communities. The studios produce works like Netflix's Special, a series that follows a gay man living with cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a terrible thing. So Stage 13 is gone. That's finished. They took the now basically diversity, equity, and inclusion pipeline program and put it under their corporate budget. And the corporate budget basically has money set aside, which they already had set aside, so they can say, hey, look, we're doing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. So it doesn't get stuck under Warner Brothers Television. And to be honest, it doesn't infect the rest of their operation. Now they can have a more serious, merit, business-focused operation over at Warner Brothers Television. If you follow my channel, you also probably know they laid off 26% of all of the employees from Warner Brothers Television. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's a total of over 120 eliminated positions. And these aren't people just bringing coffee. These are executives, management, production people. And now the focus at Warner Brothers Television is, hey, you're going to make money now. You're going to focus on making good things for the company and making good content. That's a major win to not have as many people and to not have the distraction of this entire department dedicated towards basically finding opportunities for people. But it's not just finding opportunities. They would take people and they would say, oh, okay, you're diverse. We're going to take on your project, or, even more so, they would just put people on payroll for writing projects and pay the payroll for that new person they recruited to just be part of the team. So you're in the writer's room, but you're the diversity hire in the writer's room. We'll just pay through it through Warner Brothers Television. So how are they ever going to be profitable if they do stuff like that? Again, if they want to have a paid internship or whatever, it's fine, but you need to have it consolidated and controlled under the budget of, this is our, charity budget, essentially, and there's nothing wrong with charity. It's just, they have to organize the business properly, and that's what they're doing at Warner Brothers Discovery. You're going to see a lot better results out of Warner Brothers TV. Now, they did also merge Warner Brothers Animation and Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network no longer has green light authority for literally any projects of any budget. All of the management structure has been consolidated under one lead, one head of Warner Brothers Animation. We'll see what happens with that. At the very least, we're going to see good work, and you're not going to see a lot of woke TV shows. And as far as them financing projects like this one where the gay gentleman has cerebral palsy or whatever, they'll do probably some things like that, but not as part of their main business-oriented, focused operation to make money and be held accountable for results. As a business guy, you want to see things set up in a coherent way. This is coherent. This makes sense. Okay, so let's get into the article. Before we do, be sure to be subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up when you like it. You guys have been amazing. It's been a huge, huge help. All right, from The Hollywood Reporter, Warner Brothers Discovery's Karen Horne on workshop reversal. This was always our plan. The veteran DEI executive says the pipeline programs will return even more robust than before and tap into more series across the merged company's portfolio. She's such a good company executive doing what she needs to do to support upper management. She's doing what she needs to do. Fewer than 24 hours after the closing of Warner Brothers Television Group's long-running writers and directors workshops since 1982 prompted outcry and lament from industry creatives and a challenge from the Directors Guild of America. Warner Brothers Discovery announced that the workshops weren't dead after all. They were simply being relocated from the TV division to the company's corporate DEI team. So they're not going to be focused on pipelining new talent. They're going to be focused on pipelining new DEI talent. I mean, obviously, they're under the DEI budget and umbrella. Warner Brothers Discovery Senior Vice President, now U.S. lead for DEI under the team's recent restructuring, says that she's made clear to leadership that her goal was always to unify the company's pipeline programs under the DEI division. The Warner Brothers Access portfolio already includes development programs across categories including animation, comedy, games, news, and sports, post-production, and unscripted, and probably comic books as well. That explains a lot. And that she would ensure there was a home for any entry-level TV writing and directing workshops as well. Home joined then Warner Media in 2020 to oversee pipeline programs, having done the same during a long-term stint at NBC Universal, and before that, Nickelodeon and Disney. At NBCU, she launched such programs as Female Forward and Emerging Directors, which set new standards for industry pipeline programs by guaranteeing participants an episodic job. Can you imagine that? Hey, join our program. We're going to guarantee you a paid job. Don't worry, we're paying your salary. That's how it actually works. And it doesn't even get absorbed by the production company. It gets absorbed by the corporate sponsorship of this stuff. It's amazing. She spoke with The Hollywood Reporter about what the former WBTV workshops will look like under the new management. When can we expect the workshops to come back? She said, well, we're going to try to stick to as close as possible with the schedule the current workshops have, but I'm not going to commit to saying it's the exact same schedule. Productions now go year-round, and while the current schedule benefited broadcast, we don't have to make sure on the writing or directing side that that's the case. Additionally, the program will expand under our supervision. It will be equally as robust, but arguably broader, because we will also work with our TNet partners, HBO Max, for which a lot of the Warner Brothers Television Group produces programming anyway. I want to make sure that we are not fighting a timeline just to get it done, but really building a platform that is bigger and more robust. What a great explanation for, well, look, we're going to take on the program. Yes, we canceled all that other stuff, but, you know, it'll be fine. Just trust me. And she's got enough reputation in the industry that when she says it'll be fine, just trust me, that they know, yeah, it actually will be fine. And it may not be what they want, but it'll be something. Will the workshop changes potentially include expanding beyond episodic scripted television? For the directing program, absolutely. My team was already looking to develop an unscripted directing program. They were already looking to do it. We also had been talking with the Discovery teams for showrunner program on the scripted side. Editor's note, WBD Access launched a showrunner program for mid to senior level writers in April. And we'd like to build something like that in unscripted as well. We really want to work with Discovery to expand even better. I guess that's the Discovery unscripted side. Are you retaining the staff from the workshops? Good question. No, of course not. We don't need those people. So watch this. The Warner Brothers Discovery TV team was 2 people, and they will not join my team. I don't have the headcount to have them. But in addition to myself, Grace Moss now leads pipeline programs. She worked with me at NBC on Female Forward. So when she says she doesn't have the head count, it means she doesn't have the budget. She doesn't have the allocation for money for people to bring on those 2 people that were running these programs. If they were going to continue the programs as they were, of course, you would take those 2 people. But basically, they're just taking the programs and they're saying, listen, as long as there's no overhead associated with this, go have fun. Do what you want to do. But no, we don't want an overhead infrastructure designed to just lose money or to produce charity works only. And that's a problem. They need to focus on making money. It's not just for the debt. It's a business. That's what you do with a business. You're supposed to be making money. And sure, give people opportunities. I always love doing that as a publisher, giving somebody their first published work. I've done it many, many times, and I love it. It's a great thing to be able to do. But the work has to fit in with what your business plan is. It can't just be you're giving people work and producing and paying for work, just for the sake of being nice. That's charity. That's not work. We have now at Pipeline Programs a bigger team. We have more programs, but in the restructure, we will make sure we have more people. Okay. Basically, there's no way to assess what she just said except to say either trust me or don't trust me. Does the new specific DEI focus mean that the workshops will now be open only to applicants from historically excluded backgrounds? Because that's what Hollywood Reporter would like. Her response: we look at submissions blindly. When we read a script, no one knows whose material we're reading. Same thing when we're reading and viewing any material. We're always open to submissions from everyone. We cast our nets wide enough to make sure we are really targeting those historically underrepresented groups. We also like to partner with diverse organizations are these organizations diverse? NALIP and NAACP? To help champion the talent they have. We will put notices out to them specifically, but they are open to everyone. So in other words, they're going to recruit from those specific diverse programs, but you know what's going on here. Now that the corporate DEI team, instead of WBTV, is assuming the costs of the workshops, will there be any change to their budget? This is great. That is actually a very good direct question. And watch how cleverly she answers it. And the answer is the difference in costs is that she's just taking it on as extra work, essentially. It doesn't seem like they're giving her any additional budget to work with. They just cut all the costs for the pipeline programs. She's just taking it on as part of her department because she's being heroic, really, to take on the extra work, which is great when you have top-level people that are willing to do stuff like that. Here's her response. I don't know what their costs were. I don't know if they'll be the same. What do you mean you don't know what their costs were? I mean, you're taking over a program, they didn't give you any paperwork, or hey, here's a spreadsheet. This is the operation you're assuming. They decimated the operation. That's why. I don't know if they'll be the same. Of course they won't. As we redevelop these programs to be bigger and broader, they may be more expensive. But because I have a great knowledge of running these programs, they may be cheaper. What? Basically, she's just saying, listen, we're not absorbing their overhead. We're not taking over their office. We're taking over some of the responsibilities in spirit. But we already have they have a fixed budget for the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff prior to getting rid of these pipeline offices, this pipeline department. So they're going to stuff these responsibilities into her corporate structure, and they're not paying any extra money out. I think Warner Bros. TV had the budget to pay for writers to get staffed on shows. Editor's note, traditionally networks or studios pay the staff writer salary for writers staffed from their diversity or pipeline programs, which often led to writers not being rehired once they were no longer affiliated with the program. So you see, Warner Bros. TV and other studios are stuck paying for their diversity hired writers or pipeline hired writers to be added to this writing staff for a team. And then when they're no longer in the program, maybe it's for a year or whatever it is, a paid internship, of course they're not going to continue them as part of the budget unless they were producing meritorious work. When someone got an episode on Female Forward or the Emerging Directors programs, the show paid for it, not NBC. Okay, so normally the studio wasn't paying for it in her case. We will pay for directors to shadow, but not for their episode directing fee. Nor should any company pay for a writer to be staffed. So this is much stricter in terms of how they're paying for this newly recruited talent, which makes sense. Look, if it's an industry standard to do something, you sort of need to do it, but to the absolute minimum. You don't need to go overboard and then obfuscate the budget at Warner Brothers Television with all of these extra saddled expenses for people that are not producing legitimate work. Was there any plan to move the workshops under the Warner Brothers Discovery Access prior to seeing the outcry over their cancellation yesterday? Or did the DGA's declaration to fight that decision make you do it? I've been championing writers and directors for over 20 years, like no straight answer. So the answer is like, I'm not telling you. So you can imagine how much my calls were going crazy yesterday. It was hard for me to see that. And I have a great relationship with the DGA from the Female Forward and Emerging Directors programs. I've sat in those collective bargaining calls and in the diversity meetings. I was part of the Diversity Council. Did you know there was a Diversity Council? They were really happy to hear that it was going to come under our oversight. People are saying it's a U-turn. When I came in, the goal was to unify our disparate diversity or pipeline programs. This was always our plan, to bring together these efforts under one pipeline team. This is not really much of a U-turn, as it seems. Well, this is a U-turn. This is such a U-turn that they didn't even think to consult her in advance so she could kind of PR this and handle the conversation about this, because she's clearly more than capable of doing it. But when they decided at Warner Brothers Television, like, listen, we need to bring their costs and their operations online. We need to get things under control. They didn't even consult her with what they were going to do with these programs. They just looked at the programs, and it looks to me like they looked at these programs from a management standpoint as this produces literally nothing to benefit the company. So, of course, it's absolutely gone. But she picked it up, she handled it, and that's what great executives do. They solve problems before they even get to the top. Here's another really interesting story. So this is coming from Bleeding Fool. It's a great website. You should definitely check it out. Physical media reigns. Warner Brothers is now deleting purchased digital content. What are they talking about? Well, here's what they're talking about. When you buy streaming content, when you buy digital content, streaming, whatever, you don't own it. And a lot of us, we kind of know that, but we don't really think of it. So if you buy content that then gets written off by Warner Brothers Discovery or any other publisher, it's going to come out of your digital library. You're not going to have it. Like, you paid for it, but you're not going to have it, which is pretty strange. And of course, the same goes for any digital media. I did a video just recently about the big push with digital comics. That's DC is doing a big push with digital comics, massive digital comic sales push, right? But you could buy all the digital stuff you want. If they decide to write it off and make it no longer available, it's gone, even though you paid for it. And not just a subscription type of thing where it's like, okay, you have access every month, so you have access to everything and whatever. Literally, you could buy an individual digital title and it disappears. I mean, we all know this, I think, but it's fascinating to actually see it happen. From the Bleeding Fool, we've been recently warning entertainment consumers for years about the drawbacks to digital media and trying to persuade readers to keep their physical media. Now, this most recent move by Warner Brothers Discovery only proves their point. The studio just abruptly removed original content from many Amazon users' digital libraries, generating fresh concerns about digital media. And it ought to. Although buying digital content is a simpler alternative than shelves of Blu-rays and DVDs, it isn't the best option if you plan on keeping it permanently or if you want to share the experience with others. Digital media, in contrast to physical media, is only accessible to users if the agreement between the distributor of the movie and the streaming service remains still intact. Even though you may have paid $14.99 for it, any movie or series could suddenly no longer be available once that contract expires. And not your contract as the buyer. The contract between, say, Amazon and Warner Brothers Discovery to sell and make available the content. Which is really strange because with physical media, once you have it, you have it. You have possession of it. It's your property. Recently, Twitter user, at Ted Villa Inc. NC, learned that 2 seasons of the Adult Swim show Final Space that he had originally digitally purchased from Amazon Prime Video has suddenly been removed. Really weird. Amazon Prime responded with, "Hello, your purchased titles may become unavailable due to licensing restrictions or for other limited reasons. You can read more about it here." From Shahaley. Okay, but does he get his money back? He didn't even want his money. He wanted the content. That's why he bought it in the first place. So how are they handling this? The way they're handling it is by saying, you ain't got it. Amazon Help responded, but, did he get that? The same is true for music purchases and even books, comic books, and graphic novels. Because when you buy them digitally, you don't really own them. You have a right or a permission to use them under certain conditions. According to Giant Freaking Robot, another great website, Warner Brothers has chosen to take some of its content off of other streaming sites. In order to use a movie or television show as a network tax write-off, the corporation may be making specific content available through HBO Max, a streaming service owned by Warner Brothers, or by removing the content from streaming services. So when they say they want to write off $1 billion like Warner Brothers Discovery has done of content, work in progress content, but also finished content, you may have it and then all of a sudden not have it. Apparently, Marvel Studios also isn't going to be making physical copies available of their Disney Plus shows. Not that everybody wants those these days. The phenomenon is not brand new. Disney forced viewers to either buy physical copies of movies or sign up for the streaming service when it was getting ready to launch Disney Plus by removing the majority of its films from all streaming platforms. Disney also used to do this with their animated movies. They would put them in the vault, so to speak. So they would take their movies, they put them on the market, and then they would take them off the market, and then maybe once every 10 years or so, they would reissue the films, and they would be kind of a hit when they reissued them because they weren't on the market in the past. But this is just pulling all the stuff from the market. The takeaway is crystal clear. Although firms like Warner Brothers and Disney provide digital versions of their content, they also have the authority to remove that content from a user's own digital library. Since audiences no longer control what they may and should see, the way that they consume media has been changed. Spending real money on something that can be quickly taken away from you without warning should be a significant warning sign for your media consumption habits. Yeah, if it's anything you really love or you're really interested in, I have a couple of favorite books, and I have the first printing of those books, and the editions have changed over time. Sometimes it's an improvement. Sometimes it's something politically correct. It's another whole video, but it's true. So even with physical editions, they update the editions. So if you love something, get the first edition of it and keep it. It can be challenging to decide to just buy physical media because many streaming services produce content that is only accessible through their service. Because they don't exist now and probably never will, viewers cannot watch these movies or television shows on DVD or Blu-ray. The only remaining question is what the studios will let us see, since any movie or television show can be discontinued at any time and even completely eliminated from culture. It's an intriguing and alarming trend that most people should be made aware of. People should know about this. So when you make a decision of, it's convenient to buy it digitally, but you may not be able to have access to it. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Let me also know what you think of The Woke War Win by Zaslav and his team. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. I will see you again with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.